Maria Kane, and I'm here to talk to you about HIT 292 reimbursement methodologies. This is the syllabus review. So let's take a look. What have we got going on? We are an online class for fall of 2020. We start officially August 20th and end December 16th. This is a 2-credit-hour class. It has 24 hours of lecture and 16 that are assignments, shall we say. The final, again, make sure you take a look in Brightspace for that information. We do have a final project / paper to go with this class. Instructor information. This is information about me, how you can get a hold of me. The best way to get a hold of me is through email. Yes, email. I check it several times a day. If not on the computer, then on my phone, even weekends and holidays as well. I've been known to hop on and take a look at things. I do have an office. It's in the Max Clark Hall at Kalmar. However, because of the COVID-19 situation, I will not be having office hours on the Kalmar campus for fall semester. The best way for us to touch base is Mondays and Wednesdays between 2 and 4 when I'll have open Zoom office hours, as well as Thursdays from 6 to 8 in the evenings. Other times we can Zoom by appointment. Sometimes people want to FaceTime me, and that's okay too. We can arrange for that as well. If we're going to Zoom together, once we make an arrangement to do that, I will send you an invitation so that you have the way to click into to be able for us to meet. And again, the best way to contact me is through my email. All right, course information. What is this class all about? Well, we'll be focusing on reimbursement methodologies that are used in the inpatient and outpatient healthcare settings. We will be looking at billing procedures related to charge master maintenance, claims processing and procedures, financial regulatory requirements that drive the need for coding compliance, and look at it from patient encounter to payment of services. We are introducing you to billing procedures and requirements for the CMS 1500 and the UB 92 claim submission forms. CMS 1500 is a paper-based form for the outpatient side of life, shall we say, and the UB 92 is a paper form for the inpatient side of life. Now, one thing to remember here, this class is currently required in its current form for your RHIT exam. That's why we're working through it. We will also talk about the fact that almost all billing, there's very, very little left in paper form these days. It's almost all electronic. So we'll be talking about that as well. Moving on, course goals. Again, it's pretty much what we talked about above. And we break that down into these education learning outcomes. So that is more specifically what we're trying to do through this course. We want you to come out of it knowing about these items in a critical thinking sort of way. And then we have individual unit objectives about how we're going to do this learning and what you're going to be able to do at the end of it. So I'm going to skim through this. You have a syllabus posted under contents in Brightspace, then under course materials, and I'd encourage you to take a look at that version as well, since I'm going to be moving through this fairly quickly. And each time we cover these items, you'll see that in our weekly checklist information and weekly video lecture type information, those types of things. Required materials. Principles of Healthcare Reimbursement by Ann B. Casto, the 6th edition, published by HEMA. That is the primary book we will use. However, we will also do some case studies in health information management. We need the version published by Cengage, 3rd edition, by these ladies. And I'm going to point out here, make sure you don't sell this book. You're going to need it when you get to all these other classes in 2nd year. So make sure you keep that case studies book. Methods of delivery, this is all online. So everything will be available to you and you can do it all online. There's no need for us to be face-to-face. There's no need for us to get together on campus or anything like that. Everything will be online. Grading procedures and scale, pretty similar to everything else that you have done at NICC. It's based on total points, and you can look at your grades in Brightspace. My goal is to make sure that your grades are available within 1 week of when you turn them in. Make sure that you are monitoring your grades to make sure they reflect the work you completed and submitted in a timely manner. If by chance something isn't showing in there, or I've scored you a 0 and you think you've submitted it, make sure you reach out to me so that I can get that checked and get that resolved in a very quick way. All right, so what do the points look like? The total points for this class are 1,750, and here's the breakdown. This grading scale here is NICC, so I don't determine this, but I do go ahead and multiply the points out and see what it ends up with, just for you to see. All right, so in this class, this semester, we have 16 discussions, 26 assignments, 10 quizzes, and 1 project/paper. That's a total of 53 items. 18% of your grade is determined by your discussions, 45% by your assignments, 29% by your quizzes, and 8% by that project paper, which is a final. There is 1 extra credit opportunity, and it is worth 3% additional above and beyond what you've already earned. And again, you really need a grade of C- or better to move forward in the HIT program. So what do? We use online quizzes, projects, papers to assess your learning, as well as your assignments and your discussions. And this just goes through all of those. A big reminder about quizzes: make sure you finish the quiz once you start. Do not get into a quiz if you don't think you're going to be able to finish it, because you get 1 attempt. And if you go in and you stop and you get out, it's going to grade everything you didn't do as a 0. And you've lost your 1 attempt. Make sure that, along with that, make sure that your wireless connection is in place, because if you don't have a good wireless connection, you start that test and it kicks you out, that's going to be a problem. We can try and set you up for a 2nd attempt. It doesn't always work well. So make sure that on these 2 points that you are very aware of that and ready to go. Watch out for the quiz dates, plan your time, make sure your schedule is the way it needs to be. Please do not cheat. It will result in a 0, and we'll talk a little bit later in this syllabus review about academic dishonesty, which I really don't want to talk about, because my hope is that you have the academic honesty and integrity that we don't even need to go there. But we will cover it simply because it is part of the syllabus. If you have any questions about the materials that you think are going to be on the quiz, make sure that you reach out and talk to me in advance, at least 24 hours. Course calendar is below at the end, and we are following that as closely as possible, but there are some times when things have to change unexpectedly. I don't foresee that at this point, but again, we just never know. There are opportunities for feedback and assessment throughout this course. Please make sure that you share your feedback, that you do it within a week of receipt, and that you help us when we're assessing things to know how we can improve. We have to assess you to make sure that you're getting what you need and that you're being successful. And so make sure that you help us know how we can improve. And make sure that you share with us what is helpful and what is going well. Attendance. Even though this is an online class, attendance has to be taken every week. How do I take attendance? I'm looking for, did you submit homework? Are you engaged in online discussions? Have you completed your quizzes and assessments? If for some reason you are not going to be online during a particular or specific week, please reach out to me, shoot me an email and say, hey, I'm going to be offline. Let me know. Let me know if you're going to complete your work in advance, or let me know if you need a deadline extension because something's come up that's significant that means you can't do what you would normally do. I need to know all of that. Okay, on to academic dishonesty. This is taken from the current HIT handbook, which I would ask you to make sure that you read and review so that you understand. We don't tolerate it in any course at NICC. Some examples of plagiarism here. Use of direct quotes without quotation marks or text citation. Make sure you use that. If you're going to directly quote somebody, put it in quotation marks and cite it. According to, colon, quotation marks, and then give us the direct quote, end it in quotation marks, and let us know where you got it, who you got it from, that type of thing. Please make sure you do not paraphrase without crediting the source. If you're listening to somebody and you really like their idea and you want to use it, that's great. Just make sure that when you paraphrase it, you attribute who you got the idea from or who you got the concept from. Please make sure you do not present someone else's ideas as your own unless you cite them. So for instance, if you're talking with a friend who may also be in the course and you guys are batting ideas back and forth and you guys say, oh, you know, I really like that, and you decide you want to use your friend's ideas in your paper, that's fine. You can do that. Just make sure you put the proper citation in, that you're quoting them, that you guys were talking and here's what came out of it and here's what their perspective on this was. That's fine. Just make sure you properly cite it. Do not submit material developed by someone else as your own. I realize that there is a thriving business world out there of people who write papers, college papers, for students. That is not a good idea for a number of reasons, which I think you can figure out for yourself. But please do not submit material that was developed by someone else as your own. That's not your voice. That's not your thoughts. That's not your perception. That's not your world experience. We want what's yours. Please do not submit a paper or homework for which so much help was received that the result in writing is significantly different from your own writing. If someone helps you and helps you rewrite something and it's significantly different from your own voice, make sure that you cite it, first of all, but second of all, that you turn it back into your own voice. We don't want someone else's paper. We want yours. It also goes into talking about what cheating can include. Talks about it's a serious offense and it will result in the following. We do have turnitin.com, which we can use if we're concerned that it doesn't sound like it's your voice. We can check on things when they're submitted and how they're submitted. I do not consider it cheating. Note this. I do not consider it cheating if students share notes from classroom activities, discussions, and or video recordings, as long as you appropriately cite it as a resource that was used to develop your own ideas and complete your own work. Again, it's all about the appropriate citation. It's not a bad thing that you and your classmates talk about assignments. It's not a bad thing that you guys have discussions and come up with ideas, and maybe you like someone else's ideas better than your own and decide you want to use those for your paper. That's not a problem, as long as you appropriately cite it that it was a reference you used to develop your own ideas and complete your own work. So late work. I hate late work. I hate it when I turn in late work, and I hate it when students turn in late work, to be quite honest, because it makes it very challenging to keep up with turning results around in a timely manner. So my perspective on late work is, if you turn it in late, be aware that you may already have been scored a 0 or scored according to the rubric because you didn't turn it in. I do not penalize you for late work, so if you do end up needing to turn it in late, you can do so, and I will change your grade accordingly after I grade your assignment according to the rubric, or grade it and get it back in. But I really prefer that late work be there only late when you have something significant going on. There are times in life when we all have things that happen. And this happened to me when I was working on my master's degree, and I fell behind a lot further than I would have liked. And my professors were very gracious to me to say, catch it up and we'll grade it. So I am extending that same courtesy to you. If you have a significant life event or you have something that happens unexpectedly that means you can't get your work in on time, I will accept it late. I will not penalize you, but just know that if I don't have it when I'm grading everyone else's at the due date time frame, you may see a 0 come up, and that 0 will remain there until you turn in the work and I regrade it and it gets updated. Make sure that you're watching due dates so you don't miss deadlines. And I do not accept discussions late. That is the one caveat. I will take quizzes and assignments late. Papers are okay late, those types of things, but discussions are not. The discussion happens when it happens, and if you're not there and not a part of it, it's too late really at the end to go back and be a part of it. So I don't ever go back and accept late discussions. That's the only one I don't do. Assignments, make sure that you get them in on the due date in typed form. I usually don't allow handwritten items. One exception to this is case studies. If, for instance, you have your case study book and you're working on something and you handwrite it in your case study book, it needs to be legible. And then if you need to take a picture of that, you can do that and upload the picture of that. It's not my preference, but it can be done if for some reason you're not able to type it. All assignments need to be done individually unless I ask you to work together as a team, group, or class to do something. And that does happen. On occasion, I will ask you to do a group assignment. There are extra credit opportunities that are offered to all students. I usually do this at the end of my classes, but you can start on it at any time and work through it throughout the class. I do not offer any individual student extra credit opportunities. I just don't do that. That is just not something I'm comfortable with as an instructor. And I will not use extra credit points for regaining points if you had academic dishonesty. So what that means is if you choose the path of academic dishonesty, even if you turn in extra credit, it will not go to your class because of the academic dishonesty. So just be aware of that. Use of technology in the classroom, there's a lot to this, but again, we're an online class. It's here in case for some strange, weird reason we would have to do some kind of class or interaction or that type of thing. So it's just here as reference. I'm going to skim through it and move through and move on. All right, on to classroom conduct. Behavior. We all need to have good behavior. Classes are an excellent place for all of us to hone our professional conduct and communication skills. Students are expected to be respectful when dealing with their classmates and the instructor. Use of polite language and appropriate tone of voice when communicating in person or online demonstrates such respect. All right, so having said that, how many of you have ever texted someone and had autocorrect change your message? Has anybody ever had that happen to them? It can be downright embarrassing at times if you don't catch it and you hit send. If you're texting really fast and then you just hit send, and then you go back and you read it and you're like, oh no, I can't believe that autocorrect did that. All right, so if you receive a text like that, a lot of times you'll laugh and you'll just say, oh my, must be autocorrect at work again, or what was this person thinking? Emails are the same way. Please review your emails before you hit send because you may need to do some correcting of any autocorrect that happens. The other thing is make sure you read through it and try and have the best tone of voice. The problem with emails when it comes to communication is that you can't see someone's face. You can't hear their tone of voice, you can't see their body language. And so much of communication is from that tone of voice, that body language. How are someone's eyes? Do you ever notice that we watch people's eyes as they're communicating because so much emotion comes out of the eyes? And you miss all that with emails. Emails are just written. So be really careful when you're writing an email to watch out that your tone of voice is positive and respectful. And when you read an email and your first instinct is to take it personally, please don't. Please understand that email is just email, and it's not necessarily that someone is trying to be hurtful or disrespectful. It may just be that the words are the words and they're not communicating fully what that person really meant. So let's be gracious and merciful with one another. Let's be compassionate, and let's understand that we use a lot of email and we do need to be respectful, but we also need to be not so hypersensitive that when something comes through, we immediately take personal offense. So there's a balance there, and that's what we want to work for. And please, please review. Watch out for that autocorrect and review before you hit send. All right, some additional information. The Learning Center. If you've not ever gone and worked at the or utilized the Learning Center, I just want to encourage you to do that if you have need of it. It's an awesome place. There are some great people that are there, and they are there to help you. So don't be shy about utilizing their service. Access and accessibility. There is the Read, Speak, or Listen button that can help you. Course copyright, we try and follow that as best as possible. Again, we just talked about sort of etiquette guidelines for electronic communications, but again, there's more information in Netique or Netiquette. I guess you'd say Netiquette. Accommodations policy. If you are a person who has an accommodation or needs an accommodation, please make sure you touch base with the Northeast Iowa Community College Disability Services team. They will really be a tremendous help to you. And also reach out to me privately and let me know. I want to work with you and make your academic experience the very best it can be. Sometimes just knowing that that someone is has an accommodation or needs accommodation, I can adjust the things that I do to be more helpful. And that doesn't have to be something I do publicly. It can be something that I just change about my lectures, or that I change about things that I post. You know, instead of using a more complicated PowerPoint, maybe I try and use a more simple one if you let me know that that's an issue. So let's communicate about that privately and respectfully and see what we can do, because I want you to be successful. Whether you have an accommodation or you don't have an accommodation, I want you to be successful. And the accommodation can be very private between us. It's not something that should be out there for others to know. Statement of non-discrimination. This just reiterates that it is the policy of Northeast Iowa Community College and everyone that works there and is involved there. We don't want to and we certainly don't discriminate on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, disability, age, employment, sexual orientation, gender identity, creed, religion, actual or potential parental, family, or marital status in our programs, activities, or employment practices. And even though it's required, this is just the right thing to do. It's just the right thing to do. You're here to learn, and we want to support you in that learning and help you be successful in that learning. We don't want other things to get in the way. So here's our course calendar. Our typical due dates are Monday following the week of class. So our first week, technically classes start on the 20th, but because this is an online class, your week won't start until the 25th of August, and it won't end until the 31st of August. So just so you know. Deadlines are clearly indicated in Brightspace. There may be some variations, but if you are unsure, check Brightspace first. Check Brightspace, because that is where I have everything, and that's the deadlines that I go by is Brightspace. If you're not sure, then you can go ahead and ask me. Discussions. I open discussions early. You're welcome to complete these in advance if you choose to do so. Just don't forget that you need to reply to at least, and I believe this should be 5. I apologize for this, but I think it should be 5 of your classmates' posts each week. If you go into the discussions, I think it says 5. I'm not sure why I put 3 here. I apologize. That'll be a change I'll need to fix going forward. These close on Mondays at 10:30. There are rubrics for most of the discussions. Make sure you look at the rubrics before you work on each discussion so you know the grading criteria. And I pretty much use the same rubric for all discussions. But just make sure you refer to that so you understand how I'm grading it. And I like to use rubrics because I think they promote fairness and equality. I think it's more consistent. There is some subjectivity to grading. There always will be, I'm afraid, unless everything is an equation that can be graded to one answer. But I really want to try and keep things as consistent as possible. All right, so we have a video review syllabus, and that's what you're doing right now. We're reviewing the syllabus together. I wanted you to watch this first because it contains the information you need to know before you start working on graded items in Brightspace. You're not going to be graded on watching this video, but it's set up as an assignment, so you need to confirm that you completed it within the first week of class. And you'll want to make sure that you watch the weekly lecture videos. I can't force you to do that, but I strongly encourage you to do it because it will supplement the PowerPoints and it will give you some information and background that you may need when it comes to testing. And the weekly lecture videos, I don't grade them. They're not a graded assignment, and they do not require any kind of confirmation of completion. They're just there for you. Assignments, regular versus special. Regular assignments usually do not open early. Now, there are a handful that I have opened early or will open early just to give you more time to complete them. But for the most part, regular assignments do not open early. Special assignments are going to be open to students 3 weeks early, and there are 3 special assignments. One is on CDI, another CAC, and the last one is your reflective paper or project, however that turns out at the end. All assignments open on Tuesdays and close on Mondays. Some regular assignments have the same rubric. Others have different rubrics. For instance, there are different rubrics for the special assignments. Make sure you review the rubric before you begin so you know the grading criteria. There's nothing worse than doing an assignment, getting to the end, and realizing, oh my goodness, I missed out on what this was supposed to be because I didn't look at the rubric. And then there is no rubric for the special or extra credit opportunity, and that will also be week 16. What opens weekly? Your regular assignments open on Tuesdays, close on Mondays. Your quizzes are going to open on Thursdays and close on Mondays. Your quizzes are a one and done type of thing. You get one attempt, it is time limited, and it will be graded based on correct answers only. Brightspace will automatically score and grade these, and the purpose is to demonstrate your proficiency with the materials that you learned over the chapter or chapters being tested. So what does it look like every week? Let's take a look. So week 1 is a welcome. You're doing this syllabus video review. There is an online discussion about class introductions. There is an assignment about the impact of COVID-19 on healthcare reimbursement. And there is an assignment about fee for service versus pay for performance, those types of reimbursement systems or methodologies. Sorry about that. I needed to take a sip of something to keep my voice wet and moving. Okay, so topic. This is going to be the sort of the topics that we focus on. Point values. Here are the points you can earn. Course objectives. What are we focusing on from those education learning outcomes, and then our program learning outcomes and our common learning outcome, which is critical thinking for every week, although the program objectives and educational learning objectives may change. Week 2, you can see we're looking at chapter 1, and we have some assignments and a quiz to go with it, and that's going to be in week 2. Week 3, you're going to see, again, we're focusing on chapter 2. Yes. Chapter 2 we're going to actually stick with for several weeks, as you can notice. There's a lot to that chapter 2 and what we need to cover. And that takes us up right to week 8. So chapter 2 we're going to have to spend several weeks on, so notice that. And then week 8 we'll move to chapter 3. And as you can see, again, our course objectives change, our unit objectives change, but we're always doing critical thinking. Week 9 is chapter 4, week 10, chapter 5, week 11, chapters 6 and 8. Notice that we're going to be doing 2 chapters at week 11, so kind of gear up mentally, emotionally, physically, because week 11 will be quick with both of those. Week 12, we're going to focus on chapter 7. Week 13 will be chapter 9. And chapter 9 we're going to spend 2 weeks on, actually. You'll notice that because Thanksgiving week is a small/short week. I'm hoping that you will be able to enjoy Thanksgiving with your family, friends, loved ones. And so we need extra time for revenue cycle. We'll do it in those 2 weeks. Week 15 is chapter 10. And that brings us to week 16, which is December. Can you believe it? It's now August, but we're talking about December. And this will be your final week and what you'll need to do for that final week. Okay? So that gives you the syllabus and what you need to watch out for and what you need to be aware of. It's all in Brightspace. Well, most of it's in Brightspace. And each week will be opening up for you as appropriate. So I hope you're ready. I'm excited. And we are going to have a grand time. Even though it's a bit of a dry topic, I have to admit that, we will have a great time. There's so much we can learn about reimbursement methodologies and how they play into the HIT world. All right, I'll be back to talk to you again soon about another topic, so take care.